Hey everybody, Melon here. Welcome back to another video. Gundam Evolution has been out for give or take a month now, and I think it's by time I make a tier list of what I think the worst and the best suits in the game are. Now, keep in mind these are subject to change with future balance patches. I believe there's one coming out on October 27th, and I'm sure with Season 2 coming out in sometime in November, there will be some changes down the line. However, I think as of now, this is a pretty set in stone kind of meta of how the suits rank up against each other. But yeah, let's get right into it. Let's start off with Dom Trooper. Dom Trooper is honestly, I think, one of the most underrated characters in this game. A lot of people are still kind of figuring out how to use him properly. I really think this character is going to be a mainstay in future comp ranks. It's more of a tank than a DPS because he has I think it's 1,200 something HP, and a lot of people just think of him as like a weaker DPS when he's really not a DPS. He's more of a tank role. His mines are a little useless, but they're good for just controlling area. The big positives for him are his beam, which weakens enemies extremely quickly, and the rocket launcher, of course, which is very strong, but his ultimate is the big one. The ultimate causes and just makes so much space, breaks all shields, does damage around, and gives them bonus HP. It's kind of hard to say it's like a bad ult. It is a little situational in some spots, but on some maps, Dom is just so controlling. It's so hard to go against him. And again, he has so much HP. He's so hard to take down unless you're running a really good dive comp. I think Dom is probably a solid... I'll give him a solid A tier. I think Dom is a very solid character, and I think going forward, he's going to continue to be a very strong mainstay in a lot of games, for sure. Next up, we have Barbatos. Now, for those of you who played the beta, you may remember the Terrorizer that Barbatos was back then. And yes, he was a little overtuned, but I think the big reason why Barbatos was so good in the beta is that people didn't know how to play around him. And now that the game's been out for a little while and people understand how the game flows and how the team compositions work, Barbatos has fallen off significantly in his potency. Especially with Exia becoming the new up-and-comer. The problem with Barbatos is he has great 1v1 potential. He's great at punishing uncoordinated teams or stragglers or like Methuses who just hide in the back lines. He's great at that. The problem is that he doesn't have any way of keeping himself alive aside from health packs, and if you're playing against a team who controls health packs like a Dom or anything that can control that area, you get fried so quickly. I kind of put it the same like Winston in Overwatch, where dive comp works in Overwatch because there's long-range heals to keep Barbatos or Winston alive, but in Gundam Evolution there's no Ana heal or nano boost to keep him alive in the back lines. He has to get back to the team to get healed, and by the time he gets back, he's dead. So for that reason, I'm putting him in C. He definitely could be a D character, but I think his overall damage is still strong enough to keep him there. Maybe in the future they may make some adjustments to him, but I think as of right now, he's pretty happy in C tier. Next up, we have Marashai. Now, Marashai is, in my opinion, I'm just going to make this really easy, S tier character. Really great HP. Utility is amazing. The overall usage of his kit is really good. He hard counters melee units, and he hard counters, I mean, let's be honest, he hard counters like 80% of the roster. Basically, his job is to be killing Exia, and with Exia being such a strong character and being so pretty much in every single team comp, it's a no-brainer to have him. The hook is extremely good. The combo is extremely good. The rifle has really good range, so you can even fight range, which is really solid. The ultimate is insanely strong and can just shut down pushes immediately. Super useful because there is not a lot of CC in this game, and having an option just to click a button and stop a push is incredibly powerful, especially when holding points or on attack, but more of a defensive side. I will definitely say he's much more of a defensive character than an offensive character just because the nature of his kit, but regardless, if you draft him in any lineup, he's going to be useful pretty much no matter what. There's really no downside to running this character. Next up, we have Guntank. Guntank is a very interesting character. I would say they're very weak. I think the biggest positive to this character, ironically enough, is the passive, which has him the faster recovery. I believe Guntank actually has the fastest res out of the entire roster, where basically you can dash in, get a res on someone, and dash out without having your team to kind of have to play around you and cover you for the res. Kind of like in Overwatch, where if you go for a mercy res, you have to have someone cover you. That doesn't really exist for Guntank. You can get away with doing some really cheeky reses. The problem is, though, is that the rest of their kit is quite weak, and the whole kit is quite weak. The artillery strike's okay, the main fire and the alt fire is okay. It does consistent damage across multiple characters, but it's not enough to be worried about, if that makes sense. And Guntank is very easily diveable. He has an okay escape, but it's not amazing. It's not long enough for him to get away. And his ultimate, while it is okay, the problem is that it's extremely telegraphed. And the only time you really get away with a good ult on it is if there's a crazy chaotic team fight and no one happens to hear it or see it coming in. 99% of the time, if you're playing up against a coordinated team, they are going to see this ult before it even comes in, and they're going to kill it before you can get them there. That's the big thing with Guntank. It's usable, but realistically speaking, you'd be better running a Dom Trooper or a Marshai just because they offer more for the team. The Guntank is kind of weak. I believe I'm gonna put him B tier. I think B tier is pretty. Yeah, B tier is pretty fair, I think. I definitely think he could be a little stronger, but again, the ult is just not enough. He has the fast res, but it's not enough to make him a mainstay. There's other main tanks that are just more reliable. All right, Unicorn Gundam next up. Now, if you haven't already noticed the pattern, a lot of the characters that are behind paywalls happen to be very strong. Shocker. I'm going to make this really easy. Unicorn Gundam is easily, I would say, the best, if not tied with Exia for one of the best characters in the game. The AoE heal is very strong, very consistent. You don't have to. It's unlike Methus where you have to keep the repair cable on someone. It's an AoE. You don't have to think about it. You just kind of play. It's kind of like Lucio in Overwatch. The Gatling gun, his main fire is quite good. It does have some hit registration issues, but it is very consistent and puts down very good damage, especially if you have good tracking. His alt fire, where he shoots out the tracking shields, is very good for poking at range and finishing off low health characters. Extremely strong. The armor buff is super good. Literally, you just run around and spam that as much as humanly possible, and you will be amazing. Your team will stay alive for so long. The one weak point of the kit, I think, is the ultimate. Now, it is like a Sova ult, but the problem is it's not a Sova ult that goes through walls, or at least I don't think it does, because I've never hit anyone through a wall, so here we are. But I think that is the one weak point. It is situationally good on choke points and that kind of stuff for delaying, but at the same time, I think that's like the one weak point. I honestly think he would be you'd be better off just playing a corner and keeping your team alive rather than popping the ult and just hoping you kill someone. Again, situational usage, but even with the bad ult, the character is so good. There's literally no downside to running Unicorn Gundam, unlike with some of the other characters. But again, the consistent heal, the armor is just so strong. You really can't go wrong playing this character. I will say, I have a feeling if they're going to nerf any character, it is going to be Unicorn, just because it is so good, but we'll have to see what the future holds for him. But as of right now, easy S tier character. You cannot go wrong playing Unicorn. Next up, we have Sazabi. Now, Sazabi is our first main tank and our first shield character on the tier list. I think Sazabi is an extremely strong main tank. I don't think they're good enough to be an S tier character, but they are still an extremely good character. I'm going to go ahead and just throw him right in A. The ultimate is extremely strong. It's a great crowd control option. Pop in the middle of a fight just to do consistent damage across multiple characters. It also chases for like extremely long ranges. It's very strong. He has a locator, which just locates enemies through walls at all times. His shield is extremely strong. He has a lot of HP. I believe he has 1,400 HP, and then his shield is on for 1,400 HP. So you have a lot of potential damage to pull through on this character. The throwing axe, or whatever they call it in the game, is one of the coolest mechanics I've seen on a main tank. The ability just to shoot that and then it stuns on impact, but just throw it and then chase it is such a cool option. It gives this character so much mobility for a tank. Like, imagine, it's almost, I put it kind of attuned to, like, imagine if Reinhardt in Overwatch had 5 tracer dashes. It just creates so much space. It's very hard to take down with the shield. Also, his primary gun is extremely good close range. There is realistically no downsides to playing this character. It is like one of the most consistent main tanks, if not the most consistent main tank in the game. The only reason it's not an S tier character is that it does get hard countered by certain characters, and it is very easy to burn this character down if you hit stun. Like, if you get hit by a Marshai stun, you're pretty much dead. If you get hit by pretty much any CC in this game, you're dead. And if the team does focus you, your shield does get burned down extremely quickly. And the thing is that if you get your shield burnt down, you don't have your tomahawk to escape, you have no exits, you just get burned down immediately. So it's kind of a situational character, but I still think it's an extremely good option. Easy A for me, borderline S, but I don't think it's quite there yet, in my opinion. Zeku 2 range next up. I think Zeku 2 is a okay character. The problem with Zeku 2 is that Zeku 2 is just extremely telegraphed. And also it's just a one-way in, and and pretty much if you don't get your kill, you're dead. Kind of like Sombra or like a Tracer-esque character, just without a lot of the movement. This character is really good, kind of like the Barbados area of being able to dive into a team and get a pick and get out. But the big thing is that if you don't get the pick and you're involved in your smoke screen, which for those of you who don't know it's a frame 1 invulnerability, which is crazy. If you don't get the pick and your invul screen runs out, you're pretty much dead. The utility is okay, the nade is alright. It is kind of useful for sometimes booping people off of points and that kind of stuff, but the damage isn't crazy. The main gun damage is okay, but you have to be extremely close to use it, and with how fast people move in this game, it's very difficult to keep consistent damage on them for the most part. The ultimate is quite strong, but the ultimate is not enough to be like super consistent enough to make this character better than what it was. I think, if anything, I think this character could actually use a little bit of buffing. I think maybe a little more damage, I think, on the main gun would make this character a little better. But again, it's so telegraphed. You see them coming in. It's similar to kind of like Barbados. Honestly, it is like a Barbados. You see the Zeku 2 coming in. They get their pick. If they can't get the pick, they hit their smoke screen. The team chases them, and then they just get fried. That's literally all they do. At least the one plus is that, unlike Barbados, at least Zeku 2 has a one-frame invul, so he at least can try and get to a health pack. But even still, it's not enough to be consistent as a really good character. I'm gonna put them with Guntank as kind of like they're good, but they could be better characters. Alrighty, next up is Exia. I'm just gonna make this really easy. Exia is S tier. I'm gonna put this there. Exia is basically the Genji of this game, but Genji on crack. Exia is so strong. A very, very, very high skill character. Again, kind of similar to Genji, where a lot of people look at Genji, think he's not that great, but then when they actually figure out how to play him, he's extremely strong. Any high skill mechanical player coming to this game is going to gravitate toward Exia for good reason. The biggest thing that makes Exia just so good is the movement and the escapability. It's like, again, like the issue with Barbados is Barbados jumps in and gets a pick and can't get out. Exia can jump in, make a pick, make 2 picks, and then still get out most of the time. The ultimate makes that even better with how the ultimate works, because the ultimate, whenever you pop it, it gives you a bunch of buffs, but it also gives you all your main utility skills a secondary utility, which just makes him incredibly strong. This character is probably going to be the one character along with Unicorn Gundam that's going to get nerfed very hard, in my opinion. They are extremely strong and they're extremely hard to kill. Again, this is why Marashai is so good, such a big meta pick right now, because Marashai is the only direct counter to Exia. So I think Exia is easily an S tier character. After the nerfs, if they end up nerfing him, we'll probably see. But I think Exia is going to remain up at the top in the S/A tier area, no matter what they do to them going forward. Alrighty, this is the part of the video where I get into the harsh criticism territory. Maru is such a cool character, and Maru has one of the most interesting designs of a character I think I've ever seen in a video game. I love the design of this character. I love the idea. I love the way this character works. The problem is that this character is just not finished. Straight up, this character is not finished. D tier, which I hate to do because I actually really genuinely love this character. I think this character is really fun to play. The problem is that the particle cannon ability, so for those of you who don't know, the combo is you run in, you get the kick, which stuns them, you hover in the air, and you hit your particle cannon. But the problem is that the particle cannon keeps you stuck in the air. The UI for placing is extremely buggy because it only latches onto corners of geometry, like 90-degree angles, for whatever reason, and most of the time it doesn't even actually go where you point it. It goes below your feet. It's too slow, and it doesn't do enough damage. I don't know why they released the character in its current state. I think when they play tested this character, they didn't actually really think about it. There's just so many problems with this character, and it really sucks because I genuinely love the design of this character. I think this character could easily be an A or an S tier character, but the fact that the skills are broken just doesn't work. I also think that this character could use a couple more shots in its primary. As of right now, it only has 3. I think it needs more. I think it needs 5. The problem is when it comes to dueling potential, because the utility is broken, you hit the kick and you hit them with one of your nades, they get up, and then you have to get really lucky and hit one of the other 2 nades, or you're just dead, which is really unfortunate. I hope they fix the utility on this character, because again, I think it's a really cool character. I love the design. I love the way the character plays. It just, the utility is just straight up broken, and it just doesn't work properly, which kills it for me, unfortunately. So D tier for now. I really hope they make some big changes to this character, and I'd love to see this character become a meta pick, because I think they're really good, but as of right now, this character is just not usable. Do not play this character. Alrighty, now time for harsh criticism part 2. I think a lot of people are going to get a little upset about this one, but I have good reasons for this. Zeku 2 Melee is not a good character. It's not. The only redeemable part about this character is the ultimate. The ultimate is straight up pay to win. You cannot convince me otherwise. That ultimate is way too strong. If they're going to rebalance this character, they should make the ultimate be a charge ability where you have to hold it down for like 5 seconds to get full range. The ult should not be a frame 1, you just take infinite damage. Also, the hitbox is way too big. I cannot tell you how many times I've been killed behind walls with this stupid thing. Aside from the ult, though, the character is bad. The character is basically, think of like Zarya from Overwatch. If any of you have played Overwatch, there's like this thing where no one in your team will be able to hit anything, but the moment you shoot the character that does more damage when they get shot, everyone hits their shots. Zeku 2 cannot survive and just gets rolled by teams who know how to play against them. It's exactly like Barbados. If you know how to counter a Barbados or a Zeku 2, this gets fried. There's nothing you can do. Now, I will say Zeku does have more survivability than Barbados because of his rage mechanic, and he can just block damage. But even so, if you're a Zeku 2 melee and you get hooked by a Marashai into the team, you're dead. Unless you have the ult, but even still then, you're probably dead. There's really nothing you can do. Again, not a good character. It's just a noob stomp character, just like Barbados. I don't think it will ever be a good character. I don't really see a way of them balancing this character to actually make them useful. But again, it's just a pub stomp character. In actual, like, serious competitive rank, this character is just not usable in any way, shape, or form. Next up, we have RX-78, or the regular Gundam. I hope I did that right. This character is actually a lot stronger than I think people give it credit for. The primary fire is extremely good. It does have a lot of accuracy loss at close range, but the fact that you can hold it down and kind of ADS it and just do very, very, very consistent damage across all ranges is extremely good. I noticed the hitbox in this character's primary fire is a lot bigger than the other ones for whatever reason. I cannot tell you how many times I've been killed behind walls by this thing. That may be a server thing, or it may just be this character, but it seems to be this character more than anyone else. I don't know why. This character is very good. The hyper hammer utility is extremely good for dealing with tanks, especially Sazabi, or any kind of tank with a shield, because if you get hit by the hammer, your shield breaks immediately. The stun's good, the range is really good on it. This character does also have a shield, which is a really nice touch, and then the unique thing about this character is you can actually still dash with the shield, which is really nice. You can peek out on angles, hold the shield to get info, and then dash back, which is really nice for getting info safely. Really good against playing against GM Sniper, because it's like a direct, you can't do anything about it. If you peek, you just shoot the shield, you can't really do anything about it. The really, really, really good thing about this character, in my opinion, is the ultimate. Now, the ultimate, while it does not have a lot of HP and it is very telegraphed, it does so much damage and it goes through all walls. It is so good at clearing points. It is like one of the best defensive ults, or I guess offensive ults in the game, in my opinion. The only thing is you have to have it go off. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll throw it behind walls where the enemy can't get to it, and then they'll cover the ult, dash out, and then they can just go in and take the point. It is really strong in my opinion. I think this character is extremely good. I don't think it will be changed or nerfed at all in the future. I think the character is still quite strong. I just don't think it's really a meta character right now. It's more of like an off-pick kind of thing. I am going to go put it in B tier. I don't think it's as consistent as A tier mechs, but I think it is a character where you could justify using it as like an off-pick and to counter and that kind of stuff. I think it is still a solid option. Good character, just not really fitting the meta right now. Now we get to one of my favorite characters, GM Sniper. This is a pretty easy one, to be honest with y'all. This one's very easy. GM Sniper is easily one of the best characters of the game. GM Sniper is very, very, very strong, very oppressive. If you have good aim, you're gonna fry. Now there are some situations where you will encounter characters that will hard counter your snipe, as it's any character with a shield, that kind of stuff. The great thing about GM though is that GM basically has no counter. The only thing to counter a GM is another GM, especially at long ranges. The damage, the regular rifle is super consistent. It does crit damage in any range. There's no damage fall off in any way, shape, or form. The alt fire with the little chain gun is kind of okay. It's kind of like Dom's laser beam, but it's not nearly as consistent. I haven't really found a crazy use for it. It's more of just kind of taking a little damage. The jump pad is one of the really cool things about this character. I really like that, actually. The jump pad, it's very low cooldown as well. I don't know why it's so low. I think it should be a little higher. But the jump pad's a really fun thing to do as a defensive character because you can put it in choke points to make it really annoying to get through stuff. And for some reason, people never shoot the jump pad because it doesn't shoot at them, so they don't think they need to kill it, which is quite funny. And then again, of course, the ultimate is extremely strong, gives you wall hacks, very similar to a Widow ult, but it does make you 100% accurate in the air, so you can combo that with the jump pad and get picks at long range. Again, a very, very, very strong character. Again, it can only get countered by itself, but in terms of consistency, it's not up there with the S tier characters, unfortunately. But I definitely think it is a solid character. You can't really go wrong playing it. You just need to make sure you're better than the other GM. That's pretty much the win condition for it. Alrighty, and now we get the GM. Man, you know what? I saw GM and I was really excited because GM was like the perfect hybrid for me because I love playing off-tank healers. This character's kit looked so cool, and I really love the idea of this character. The problem is, though, is that they nerfed them so much after the beta that they are just not usable. So unfortunately, it's going to go C tier, which is a real easy pick there. The big issues with GM is that the primary fire, while it does great damage close range, does absolutely nothing range, which isn't necessarily bad, but it almost does it does a little damage. I don't even know if I hit them. That's my problem with it. I wish it did a little more damage in like medium to long. I think just a little more would be nice. The shield is okay, but the problem with the shield is that it's not really that useful, in my opinion. And the shield bash only moves characters out of the way. I really think this character should actually have a stun like Brigitte used to have in Overwatch 1. Because this game does have a very big lack of CC. The only hard CC in this game is Marshai hook, Marshai ult, turn A grab. That's it. And two of those are skill shots. One of them is a point and click ult. If GM had a stun and did a little more damage with his primary fire, I think it'd be pretty good. The det pack, the little Molotov that's remotely like the remote explosive, I think is actually pretty good. The only problem with it is that it takes way too long to actually detonate and it's way too telegraphed. I think they could use a little bit of tuning on that one. The damage is fine. I just think it's not as useful. Like, it's not like an Ashmar grenade where it's like a one frame, like, okay, here's a grenade, you take damage now. It's way too telegraphed. It is good on like diffuse missions, I will say that, but even still, it's not as strong. The big positive though, this character is the heal nade. I think the heal nade is extremely strong. It's kind of like Ana nade from Overwatch, but it doesn't have an anti-property, but I still think it's really good. It's really good for keeping like ranged teammates alive and that kind of stuff. It's nice just to kind of be able to end a team fight. Your sniper in the backline gets hit, you throw a nade at them, heal them, and get back in the fight. That is a real big positive. I would like to see maybe a little more of a cooldown on this, a little less of a cooldown on the heal, in my opinion, just so they can kind of play more of an off support role. But again, really cool character. I wish they just kind of change them around a little bit to make them a little more consistent. But again, I think having a stun would be a huge help. But again, cool character, just not really implemented properly, so it's going to go C tier, unfortunately. Hopefully in the future they change that and they make them a little more useful, but we'll have to see what happens. All right. Favorite character time for you to go off about Methus. Methus is my favorite character. I really, really, really like Methus. I think Methus is probably one of the best characters in the game. The great thing about Methus is that Methus is an extremely controlling character and is extremely good at keeping teammates alive in specific situations. I like Methus more than Unicorn just because the heal is more direct and faster. However, Methus has to heal one of your teammates at a time, which does technically make their output less, but you know what I mean. The other great thing about this character is the turret and the ultimate. Now, the turret's really good just for being a pain in the ass and putting it in backlines. It's really good for against Barbadoses and keeping track of enemy movements. It's like a mine, if that makes sense, like a kind of like a Dom mine, but it shoots at them. So it's really good for that. Also, no one shoots it. It's like a small Torbjorn turret that no one shoots in team fights, so people just ignore it. I definitely think it should have less health. and a longer cooldown because it is definitely a little too strong right now, 100%. The primary fires are pretty good, just consistent damage. The alt fire is okay, but the alt fire you can't really direct with it because for some reason it doesn't work properly. It just goes right through them, so you have to shoot the ground near them, kind of like a Dom rocket. Realistically speaking, not that big of a deal. The big plus, though, is the ultimate. The ultimate is basically a nano boost for like Overwatch, very almost identical in terms of mechanics and that kind of stuff. It's a really strong ult, and I'm surprised people don't utilize it more. I think the main reason why is because there's not a lot of characters that can really take a lot of use for it. Right now, the only characters that really gain from the ult would be like Pale Rider, Dom, I would say Exia for sure would definitely qualify for it. But like aside from those characters, there's no real DPSs that really take use for it. Like it's not like Overwatch where you have a Soldier 76 who can just become a god when he gets nano. There's no really that character option. It is good though, and just keeping people alive. I think that's what I primarily use it for. I use it more of a you stay alive more than you do more damage kind of situation. But again, I think this character is extremely good. Oh, and how did I forget? The fly. The fly is also really strong. Just being able to get around the map super quickly is extremely strong. You have so much presence on the map, and you're just so annoying. That's the biggest thing when you're playing Methus. You are just a pain in the ass because you keep everyone alive. You're flying all over the place. Your turret's everywhere. You're everywhere at once, but you're nowhere, if that makes sense. So easily, Methus is going to go A tier. Again, I'm not putting him in S tier because Unicorn, it does have just way more consistent healing output. Methus is more situational, but I just personally prefer the character more. But I think in general, people think Unicorn is better, so that's why I'm going to put him here. I would technically put him S tier, but I think it heavily depends on playstyle, whether how good your Methus can be. That's pretty much the determiner. But I think he's a solid A tier character, definitely a good character. You can't go wrong playing a healer, especially because there's only 2 main healers in the entire game. Good character, really no downside to him, but just not as consistent as Unicorn, in my opinion. This is a hard one for me because I really like this character. This is like the GM part 2 for me. Turn A is unfortunately B tier character. I think Turn A is criminally undertuned. The only use for this character, the only consistent use for this character is the ultimate. That is the only reason to use this character. If you are stuck at a point and you need to roll the point, you play Turn A, get ult the site, kill everyone, switch off to someone else. That is the only reason you play this character. Unfortunately, from the beta, while this character was pretty strong in beta, they have nerfed him a little bit. I will say they did buff the grab, which is great because the grab was like the only form of command grab CC in the game, but unfortunately it still just is not consistent enough to be really that useful. The flip is cool, but even still the flip is like you basically run and you grab somebody, suplex them over your shoulder. It's cool, but it's not useful, and it doesn't keep them stunned long enough for you to follow up consistently, especially in 1v1s. The self-heal is great. You are pretty self-sufficient, but again, the big issue for me is the rifle. The rifle is not consistent. It's so hard to output consistent damage. It's like a scout rifle, like you have to charge it up kind of thing. The problem is though is that just it's not good enough. Close range and like if you just tap it, it doesn't do a lot of damage. If you hit consistent headshots, it's great, but your time to kill is so high because it's let it charge for so long. It just pales in comparison to a lot of the other characters. I would love to see his character get some significant love for sure. I definitely think the ult would need a nerf because the ult actually ignores the world and goes through all levels of terrain. So even if you're hiding like 3 or 4 floors under where this ultimate is happening, you will still get hit by it, which I think is completely bullshit. I do not think that should be a thing. But aside from that, I think the character is criminally bad. I'm putting them in B tier because the ult is the ult is the only reason they're in B tier. If the ult was bad, they would be in C tier. Again, if they tune the character in the future, I think the character will be a lot better. But as of right now, the character is just it's only useful for the ult. That's literally the only reason you play the character. Alrighty, now we get to Ashamar. Ashamar is a very interesting character. So Ashamar is the second flying unit in the game. The only other one who can do that is Methus. So you can transform into another thing and fly around the map. Ashamar is great for map control, kind of like a Methus, but does more damage. The only problem with it is that Ashamar is very weak and very easy to kill. Methus does have this problem, but Methus isn't directly going up against enemies. Like, you're not diving a sniper as Methus, because that's a stupid idea, but your Ashamar, you're diving a sniper because that's your job, and 90% of the time you're going to die. The issue with Ashamar is that it's too telegraphed and it's too easy to tell when he's coming. Again, if you're playing against a team that has good aimers or anyone who looks up at the sky, you're going to get rocked pretty quick. I will say the molly is extremely good. The molly is like a frame 1 molly. The molly, like the grenade molly, is what I wish GM had instead of their depth pack. I think it's really good. You can pick off characters, like that's Ashimar's bread and butter. You run around, you fly up in the sky, find a character by themselves, molly them, shoot them from above, and then kill them. It's good, but if people know you're playing Ashimar, they're going to see you coming and they're going to kill you before you can get them. The alt is okay. I don't really think it's that good. I definitely think the alt could use a rework. The alt is just too situational. The alt is like a command grab pretty much, but not even a command grab. It's like, it's a weak command grab. It's not even like a turn A grab. It's just weaker. It doesn't do enough damage. You can't solo kill with it in most scenarios. I think the character is pretty bad. Also, the alt fire is really buggy. I don't know if it's like a server thing, but the alt fire never regs for me, like ever. I can never get it to work. I don't know why. I think it must just be my ping or something, but I know that is definitely an issue. Again, a weak character. It's just very easy to counter if you know what you're doing. It's just not that great. I will put them in B, which seems crazy because I'm putting them in the same line as these guys. But at the same time, though, like if you're gonna play a DPS, you're better just playing Pale Rider or GM Sniper or Dom or like Exia or Marashai, just because you offer more to the team. Ashimar is just too linear with how they approach fights, unfortunately. Definitely some tuning will be done to this character in the future, for sure. I think the character will definitely get some buffs, if I had to guess. But we'll see what happens with it. And last, but most certainly not least, we have Pale Rider. Oof, what a character. Pale Rider is... yeah, that's an easy A tier. Pale Rider is one of the most consistent DPSs in the game. The only downside to Pale Rider is that they do suffer at range very heavily. This is very much a close to mid-range character. Don't get me wrong, you can do semi-consistent damage at very long ranges if you have really good recoil control, but just it's more of a close to medium range. This character does so much damage. It's disgusting. The primary fire is great. The hip fire spread on it is very good. The ADS is extremely good. The heal pod is super strong. Also, fun fact for those of you who didn't know, you can actually kill the heal pod. I don't know why people don't shoot it more, but yeah, you can kill it. The heal pod's really good. The slow nade is really good for controlling choke points. That's like one of the biggest parts of his kit because you can dash around his sight, do consistent damage, and block people from coming in. It's also a really great counter against Exia, where if the X is going to dash in on you, throw a slow grenade at your feet, dash out 180, throw a nade where they're stuck, and then beam them. It's very good for dealing with that. The grenade is very good. I will say the AoE on the nade is a little lower than I would like it to be. It was definitely a little bigger than the beta, but it's still pretty good. And then this ultimate's just... it's stupid. The ultimate does so much damage. The ultimate is so good. It's even more disgusting if you get nanoed with the Methus. It's basically a Soldier 76 ult, but instead of having aimbot, you do significantly more damage. You run faster and you have lower cooldowns and lower reload time. Overall, a very, very, very consistent character. Realistically speaking, in a team comp, you're probably going to see yourself running at least a dominant, like pretty much mainstay. You're going to see a Unicorn, an Exia, a Marashai, a Pale Rider, and a GM Sniper, or some iteration of that. Pretty much every single team comp in the game is going to be some kind of iteration of this. And maybe you'll see some of these guys, never this guy, but some of these off the side. But this character is just super consistent, super good, very self-sufficient. Again, no real downside playing this character. You're going to do well, pretty much no matter what, as long as you have good aim. And there we have it. That is the completed tier list. Now, I did go into a lot of detail in this video, and I probably shouldn't have gone into as much detail, but for the sake of transparency, I wanted to. But yeah, this is what I think the kind of tier list is going forward. Again, as I just said, pretty much every good team comp in the game is going to be some combination of the S and A characters. You may see a B character thrown in there every once in a while, depending on the map, but you very, very rarely will you see a C and a D character and a actual good team. I think everyone knows these characters are just straight up throwing, but the S and A characters are definitely the ones you want to keep an eye on. But again, we'll see how the future of the game is balanced. Again, the game is very new, and again, we haven't seen any balance patches yet, but I'm very excited to see how the meta is going to shift. But right now, I think the meta is really healthy and really fun. But again, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think of the tier list. Do you agree with what I put? And if you think I put someone in somewhere that I shouldn't have been, or if you think Maru is the best character in the game, let me know down in the comments down below. I'd love to see everyone's thoughts on Maru, if they're actually good or not, because I know my experience has been pretty bad, but maybe other people have other experiences, so you never know. But anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I will catch you guys in the next one.